Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Rotofanatic podcast. We are here back with our second base tiers. So if you've been following along, we've been doing a video series going along the tiers of our entire staff over at Rotofanatic, and we're going to be talking today about second base, going player by player, putting them into appropriate tiers. I am your host, Matt Williams, subbing in for Michael Govier, who's having a nap this Sunday morning. Joining me, Mr. Paul Mamino. What is up, Paul?
Not much, Matt. How's it going?
Pretty good, man. Everyone enjoying football this Sunday, or is everyone looking forward to baseball?
Well, yesterday's games almost put me to sleep, but
joining us always as well is Mr. Doctor Mike Carter, a Chicago Bears fan who tried to poke fun at me, a Packers fan, which is
I didn't say
Mike,
I didn't say anything. I didn't say a word. I just know that an ex-Bear kicker knocked the Packers out of the playoffs yesterday. But that's all I'm going to say about that. I have no room to talk. The Bears are awful.
Yeah, the Packers are gonna be awful probably pretty soon. Joining us also is Mr. Dave Funnel. Dave, what's up?
Not much. I am ready to get into this Michael Chavis, Kevin Newman playing time situation. Gotta love that the Pirates playing time at second base going on. So
can we just skip the Pirates? Like that's for every position.
40 minutes. Let's go.
Brian Hayes. That's the only one we need to care about.
Yeah. All right. So for anyone keeping track, we've so far have done catcher and first base. We are on second base today. We're going to be going player by player, putting them into their appropriate tiers, and we're going to start at the very top with Mr. Trea Turner, who technically most people will probably be starting at second base, I imagine, but he is also shortstop. So we'll talk about him twice when we do both tiers. But for now, second base, Trea Turner. Obviously in tier one, the only question is Ozzie Albies at number 2. Should these two be? This is again the same situation we had probably with like Freddie Freeman and Vlad. Maybe I don't think that's quite as close as that. But Trea Turner 1A, Ozzie Albies 1B, or does anyone just think we throw them together? With thoughts starting with Paul.
See, I was trying to think about this. I think that the problem is I think Albies is closer to Turner than he is to the next tier of guys, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if he belongs in the same tier as Turner.
So, I mean, we could be doing the same exact thing here where we did, for anyone who listened to the first base, for the first base show, we had Vladimir Guerrero in his own tier, and then we had Freddie Freeman in his own tier, and then we started again. Do we have the same situation here at second base? Because it kind of feels like it.
I think so.
I personally would put Albies with Merrifield, but I can understand the argument.
Yeah, no. See, for me, Trea's my he's someone you could take number 1 overall, and I wouldn't even be considering Albies at all. So I've got Trea all in his own tier.
Okay, so we all agreed Trea is definitely tier 1. We can move on from him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
good.
I like Albies too, but I mean, I think it's a clear difference. I mean, Albies is, to me, there's always that question about is he just a creator of plate appearances? I mean, his volume of plate appearances is what really gives him the value, in my opinion. But Turner's clearly far and above, I think, here. Anyone else here?
Yeah, well, higher floor for stolen bases, obviously, definitely a much higher floor for batting average. Basically, his average year is better than Albies' career best, and I think we may have seen that. I don't know how you guys feel about that when you're moving into Albies now. So, Trea Turner, tier 1 by yourself. Ozzie Albies this year what did he do? 20-30?
30-20.
30
home runs.
Yeah.
I think that's his career best. I think that's the best. I'm not saying that he'll be bad for the rest of his career. I think this is his best year of his career, possibly, in my opinion. Does anyone disagree with that? I mean, I think he kind of the way he hits the ball. I'm surprised he cranked out as many home runs as he did, to be honest, just because of the low core ball and the way he hits them. I just think it was just a slight anomaly, especially with his like home run to fly ball ratio. So I just think that he's more than likely that. I think this is the best he's going to get. I think he's kind of being overdrafted, but because of the power speed combination, it's hardly going to be an issue, even if he's slightly bust. But yeah, for me, that is why I have him a little closer to Merrifield, who obviously requires plate appearances to be good. But this is fantasy, so whatever. So you're heading over to Paul, because you said you think Albies is closer to Turner than he is to Merrifield, so you obviously disagree with me.
I mean, I just don't. with Albies, I think he's what I see with him is kind of the same thing you're going to get. It's the same problem you have with Merrifield with a little bit more power, a little bit less stolen bases. I feel a little bit better about him keeping the average, and I think the offense is better, which then leads to more runs, more RBIs. So I think the thing with Albies is you're not necessarily getting elite production at any category, but you're getting pretty good production, if not 90% of what you need at every single position, which I think puts him above that tier of, Merrifield and Simeon and the other next set of second basemen.
What's his current ADP?
20,
Albies
19.
Since in January, because there's been 20 drafts in January on NFBC. He's going at 18, Merrifield 32, and then Trey Turner obviously is averaging being the number one player.
Yeah. I can't see me taking him there.
I don't think I take him either. It's more just I think I have a better bet of him finishing 2 than I do Merrifield finishing 2.
Oh yeah, that's a good way to put it, Paul. That's true.
Yeah.
Right, because when we're thinking,
I agree with that. I guess to get to Dave. Well, actually, before I give my opinion, Dave, what are your thoughts on this tier 2?
Yeah, I would say I would put Albies first, but I do agree that he is being overdrafted right now at 18 to 20. It's just the depth for me. The depth of second base is just so deep that I would never he's out of my price range there. But I do like what he's offered. I do like the power surge that he had last year. I wonder if he sacrificed a little bit of batting average because I'm looking now. He was 259 last year, and the 2 previous years was 271, 295. So I don't know. There might be another level to take the batting average there to really, bump him up. If he goes 30-20 with 270 again, that's not out of the question. But at 18, he is out of my price range. I do like what you said there, though, Paul, about Whit. I do think he should be up there, but I do have Albies first and then Whit. So,
all right. So, what is the consensus here? I think we all agree that Albies should be the SP2. It's just a matter of where you group them. If I don't, I actually want a top second baseman. I don't like it late much. There's some players I like later, but I kind of want to fill in my middle infield slot earlier because even though it's deep as far as plate appearances go, I'd much rather draft other positions later. So I like to fill this up quick. So I kind of want to have some of these early guys on my team. So for me, if I had Albies and I didn't get him and I got Whit Merrifield, I'd be completely happy, especially with him being second outfield. Not that I ever see myself putting him there. So, I would put Albies and Merrifield as their own tier 2, even though Albies is out in front. Because I guess if we put Albies in his own tier, I would argue that I think Merrifield is, because of his safety, is well above the rest of the group. And this has to do with my thoughts on Marcus Semien, which we'll get to. I think for me, I vote for the tier 2 to be Albies and Merrifield together. Paul, what are your thoughts? What do you want to do?
I don't have I think that I have Merrifield more like the next group of guys, but I also don't think it's necessarily I'm fine with him being in tier 2. I don't think he's because I think you get different things from the next 3 guys and what you get from Merrifield. So I'm fine with putting him in 2.
Well, I never believe in Merrifield. I never draft him. This year I have. He's so boring and he needs plate appearances. And 1 year he won't get them, and he'll literally be like worthless. But he's whatever. He's proven that he's going to be on the field. So I guess I have to stop taking that away from him. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I'm not a big. There are some people who just love Whit Merrifield, and I'm just not one of them. I think he's fine, but again, he's got to have the volume of plate appearances. If he comes in at 450, 500 plate appearances, you're not going to get the value that you drafted him at. And quite honestly, when you look at things like WRC plus, he's a league average player, right?
If he doesn't have volume, he's not even very good.
Correct. Yeah. And that's the thing that worries me. He's another year older, and God only knows what's going to happen in Kansas City this year.
What do you think, Dave? Hold on, actually, Mike, where do you land on that? Well, as far as the tiers go, do you think Whit belongs in a different tier?
I know I'm okay with him and Albies being together. I view them fairly similarly in terms of the volume, but I think Paul said something really nice before, which is you get a little bit different thing from each guy.
Okay, Dave, what do you thought? Are you signing off on this?
Yeah, I do too, because I like Albies and Whit together. They do offer you the speed, whereas the next group, I think, offers you something that you can get a little later. So,
All right, so we got tier 1, everyone at second base, Trey Turner, tier 2, Ozzie Albies, and Whit Merrifield. Tier 3, I should let someone else lead off because I mean, here real quick, this is NFBC ADP. Again, this a lot of people don't play NFBC. We understand that. We're just using that for ADP purposes because there's a lot of drafts so far, and that's where accurate ADP is. This is in order. The next guys: Marcus Semien, Javier Baez, Jazz Chisholm, Tommy Edman, Jorge Polanco, Jose Altuve, Brandon Lau, Kettle Marte, Jonathan India. They are all in one tier for me. I do not care who I get out of that group. I am more likely to draft towards the back of it because of that, to be honest. I hate Marcus Semien in Texas. He's not going to be in Dunedin. He's not going to be in Buffalo. It's a terrible park for him. It's a terrible lineup, big downgrade. He's being drastically overdrafted at pick 39. I was just in a draft the other day of a bunch of sharp people. We let him go like 20 picks past his max before we took him. And I think everyone was kind of on the ball there. So anyway, Semien, Baez, Chisholm, Edman, Polanco, Altuve, Lau, Marte, India. I have them all together. I guess, Paul, I assume some people someone's disagreeing with me here. But yeah, I don't know. They're in a big interchangeable glob for me.
I mean, I think that I don't think I can really disagree with you there because like there's guys that I like more than others. Like I like Marte a lot in this group. I like some other guy. I'm not the biggest Edman guy, but again, he's kind of a knockoff version of Albies where there's a lot less power, but it's the same kind of thing. You're going to get like relative production everywhere, probably except for home runs. But I don't really necessarily think that there's a guy that I would drop out of this tier, and I don't think I would go into that next grouping with what is it behind it is LeMahieu and Cronenworth.
Taylor.
You might be able to make an argument for Cronenworth.
Yeah, well, the position eligibility, you mean?
Yeah, and I guess just because he's going to play, right? Like he's going to play almost every, But at the same time, I think
overall though, like if you're setting, if we're just talking about him as a second baseman, I think he's clearly a tier below.
Yeah,
I think he could. I think he'd easily crawl into the middle of this group at the end of the year, but I don't think I'm.
Him that way.
I'm drafting him. I mean, all these other guys, Simeon's going at 40, which is crazy. But then Baez 63, Chisholm at 70. Then the rest of the guys, 80, 81, 81, 82, then 90, 92. And then LeMahieu at 117. So there actually appears to be already a shelf there. I guess the main thing is everyone think about Semien, where I actually have him towards the middle to the back of this group, but I still within it. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I'm not a big Marcus Semien guy. I mean, I think he's had a really good couple of 2 good years there in a row, but I think the park is death to him there. The lineup is going to be really bad around him the way that it looks right now. The guy that I really like in this group is Lau. I think that he can kind of give you, if you're thinking about Simeon's pop, I think Lau's got that built in already. He's going to play. His WRC plus last year was really, really high. I think it's going to be about the same this year. And I think Tampa's actually going to let him play, which is rare in Tampa. So I agree with you guys. I think I'd be happy with any of the guys in this glob, a little less happy with LeMahieu. I'm kind of down on LeMahieu. I can listen to testimony from guys like you that are smarter than me, and maybe I could be swayed. But I'm happy with any of the guys that are here. I don't see me reaching for Semien either. I just don't see that being a good buy for me at this point.
I think the only reason LeMahieu can't be is it's not that I don't think he'll bounce back. It's a big question mark, and he doesn't offer the upside of other question marks like Jazz with the speed. So I think that does bump him down because if he doesn't deliver, he's like a poor man's Merrifield. So that's a problem. What do you think, Dave, of this giant group here? I believe, by the way, Mike, I agree with you with Lau. There is always a risk with Tampa Bay with a platoon, but the 40 home run power is definitely legitimate. And I think some people don't give him enough credit for that. So I do like him, but he does have his flaws, but I think he's going in an appropriate spot. What do you think, Dave?
I do have Semien up a little bit. I don't think he's going to hit obviously like 45 home runs like he did last year, but he did hit 33 in Oakland with a 285 average. So to me, if he can do it in Oakland, he can do it something like that in Texas. So I do have him near the top of the third tier because he does offer the 30-10 potential. Someone I really don't know how to classify though is Javier Baez in Detroit with that new stadium, because I know he well, not new stadium, but new for him. It's the power in, isn't it in left field or left center? It's like it's very deep and it's the power. So I think the power might go down.
Left center,
there.
the left center gap. Left field, like pole left, is actually very, very fair. It's actually one of the better parks for a pole hitter.
But it's at left center
once
and
you
center.
drift to the gap, yeah, it gets brutal.
So I think there might be a drop in power for him there, but he's hard for me to figure out. But yeah, I do have a lot of the power guys here in this group, like Altuve and Lowe. I do like Lowe, but he's more of a daily lineup kind of guy, because he goes through ups and downs. And when he's hot, you want to ride him, but when he's not, you just put him on the bench and you got to put somebody else. So I do have him up there. I like Jazz, and I like.
Oh, you liar! You're a liar. You don't like Jazz. You're obsessed with Jazz. Be honest, Dave.
But I was going to say he does have some question marks. So I do have him a bit lower, because I do think this group here has more of a stable track record in the sense that they've done it before, and I think they can do it again. Whereas Jazz and Edmund, and they kind of need to show me again a little bit before I put them up there.
This tier is entirely about your
personal
roster
preference.
I was going to say roster construction or personal preference. Like, if you want power guys, then you have your Baez, you have these certain guys. If you need steals, then you target Jazz and probably Edmund, and but if you need different skill sets or different things, that you can get it in this grouping. And there's not really, I don't think there's too many arguments for or against many of these guys. I mean, you can have guys you personally like better than others, or guys you want to fade, but
it's a great statement.
It's all about just how your roster's set up for these guys.
What do you guys have in your mindset when you draft? Do you typically have an idea of what you want to get out of this position, with statistically speaking?
Well, no. I mean, just because it highly depends on what else you do.
Right.
I think it's depending on how you set yourself up in the beginning, I think is where you can try to take the Laos of the world, because you need to get that speed. But I hate going like outfielder real quick, because it's very deep there as well. So I don't find myself drafting anyone that can't steal bases. Although Lau, he's not a zero, which is important. Right. He gives you a few. So yeah, I think it's personal preference. I think you do got to get speed out of the middle infield. It makes your life a lot easier. But yeah, I mean, the good thing is that's basically guaranteed with most of the guys. Yeah. By the way, for everyone listening, I don't hate Marcus Semien. My projection, I did one of my threads on him. I have him down for a 257 average, 32 home runs, 90 runs, 80 RBIs, 10 stolen bases. So I'm not saying he's anemic. I just don't have him as high as he used to be. Like I said, at the very bottom of this tier, Jonathan India, who's by far the last, I have him batting 262, 25 home runs, 100 runs, 70 RBIs, 12 stolen bases. So for basically seven more home runs from Semien, but a batting average about 5 points higher for India. I think they're kind of interchangeable, and I think India in that lineup could get even better. So yeah, why am I paying for Semien? I'll get something else there, and then especially the way closers are going, and go there. So let me go through the names again, and everyone can sign off, remove someone from the tier, add anyone. We got Semien, Baez, Chaz, Edmund, Polanco, Altuve, Lau, Ketel Marte, Jonathan India, all in tier 3 together. Paul, thoughts before we move on?
I don't really have any changes to that. Yeah.
What do you think, Mike?
I love it. I think that there's great stuff to be had in that glob.
Dave? Glob.
No, I can sign off on that too, because there is a drop off in the next tier. So yeah, I can see that.
Plus, especially early, some of these guys, especially in the first the first 5-6 rounds, it kind of, not that you should chase ADP, but it really matters where your draft position is, because if you're at the end of the first round and you were forced to go with a pitcher first base or pitcher third base or something, or if you're at the beginning and you ended up getting Turner and Mullins or something, it really changes the kind of hitter you'll need too. So that's why We love doing tiers instead of rankings because rankings are worthless. It depends on who you drafted already. And all like, and as Paul was saying earlier with Albies and Merrifield, all these guys kind of give you something different. So it depends. All right, moving on to tier 4. I have no idea how to split this one up.
The multi-positional eligible, where you're probably not actually playing them at second base tier.
Mm-hmm.
I guess. I mean, I guess. I I actually like first base deep more than I like second base deep.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, well, with LeMahieu, you're probably, if I had to take a guess, you're probably using him at third if you're using him.
Probably.
But, and then,
Although
so LeMahieu,
if I haven't drafted a
Cronenworth,
third baseman
right?
by then, I'm sad.
LeMahieu, Cronenworth, they're in this grouping. They kind of have to
yeah.
be. Yeah. And then what? The next is Ty France.
Chris Taylor, Ty France, Luis Urias. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I think LeMahieu and Cronenworth probably should be ahead of him, but I don't. Cronenworth should be ahead because of position eligibility, but here we're just doing it if you are looking for a second baseman. So why don't we just think of it that way? We'll take eligibility out a little bit for the sake of argument.
Yeah.
I would be fine putting LeMahieu, Cronenworth, Taylor, France, Urias, and McMahon all together.
Mm-hmm.
See, I'd have Brendan Rodgers in there too.
I was just gonna say I think Rodgers over McMahon.
That'd be fine. I'm fine with that too.
I
like it's either's fine.
So then we dropped to just trying to make sure we didn't. Well, okay, we forgot to come back to him. Let's not do it now. What are you doing with Max Muncy?
Oof.
I'm not drafting him under any circumstances.
Yeah,
we didn't talk. We forgot him about it first. Hey,
right.
He could. I mean, right now we don't know anything. Right? He could be back opening day. He could be back by the All-Star break. He may not play this year. We don't know. Right now, I just have his name crossed off.
Yeah.
I think we do that with. I mean, my opinion, we do that. Does anyone else feel comfortable with him? Because for me, I cross him off until we get news, and then we could kind of add him.
Bring him back.
We have no idea how long he's going to be out. So, no.
All right, Mike. Right now we have DJ, Cronenworth, Taylor, France, Urias, McMahon, Rodgers. You have any problem with anyone in that tier? You can add or drop anybody.
I'm glad that you guys said that about Rodgers because I actually have him slightly ahead of McMahon as well, and I think that I can live with that tier right there very well.
Rodgers should. Well, it's the Rockies, but he should play every day now, right? Like there's no one blocking him really.
Well, unless they bring back the ghost of Ian Desmond or something like that. Yeah, he should be fine.
Is Ian Desmond technically still under contract with them? He's opted out the last 2 years, right? I think he is still under contract. He could play shortstop. He did it once.
What a farce.
I'm trying to think of the guy. Like, I don't really love. I get the love for France. I don't really love France. I'd much rather a lot of these other guys that kind of going on the same thing. Second, if you don't get steals at a second base, it's kind of a bad thing.
Well, I agree. I think he's going late enough where there's some intriguing power there, and there's no real question marks for health for him. Yeah. And I think that's the big thing that separates him. I guess the big thing here is let me just throw out a good example for him. Why is he being drafted? I mean, he's available at first base, but this next person I'm going to talk about is available at third base, which is much more valuable. What's the big difference between Ty France and Eduardo Escobar?
I feel a little more confident about Ty France, and you're a Mets fan, but I feel more confident about his playing time.
No, I'm not.
I'm saying you can tell me.
I didn't put Escobar in this tier. I'm just saying if you're not getting speed, if we were going to talk about, if we're talking about France, I think that's the main reason is he's power only.
Right.
I'm just saying, like, if you're waiting on power, you can go to a guy like Escobar and probably get something rather similar.
You might disagree on the playing time part of it, but I feel like his playing time is much more of Escobar's playing time is more of a question than France's is.
Oh, I actually disagree. I would have it reversed. I think Escobar plays every day, but I mean, again, I didn't have him in this tier. I'm just devil's advocate thing.
It's all going to work out just fine when the Mets trade the White Sox Jeff McNeil.
I mean, I think. Well, yeah. I mean, I think that J.D. Davis is gone.
Yes.
Dom or McNeil are gone. But is that the main thing? Because I mean, if we're talking about France, that's the big question mark: is can you get what he gives you later? And I don't think there's that many people that can give you that kind of power besides
Jonathan Scope.
Yeah, I think he's a good one too.
Like if I'm taking those guys, it's Scope for me. If I'm going in that.
No, that's cool
that
too.
thing,
It's
yeah.
more of a, do you feel that much more confident in France where you think he deserves to be in the tier above? That's the question.
Yeah. No, I think I actually prefer Escobar there.
Yeah, I don't care, which I think is the thing of tiers. If I needed a second baseman and I wasn't getting stolen bases, you said France, Escobar, and Shoop, I'm like, I don't care. I don't even want to argue. Give me one of them. I don't care.
Now, can I ask you guys a question about this? Now, people ask me this all the time privately. Are you okay with your starting second baseman coming from this tier?
No.
Me neither.
No, this is middle infield land for me.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. I've had people that have reached out to me and have said that they would feel comfortable with any of these guys as their starting second baseman, and I said, well, I hope you're in my league then.
Yeah, I mean, they
I
all have
think I'd be
question
okay with
marks. I mean, the
Rogers.
only guy who doesn't have a question mark for me is Cronenworth, even though he should, right? Because they still have. You don't know what the Padres are doing. They added Adam Frazier for no reason last season. They still have Kim on the team. Cronenworth should. I mean, if I had to guess, I'd say he plays every day and he could bat third. So his ceiling, I think, is incredibly high, but he does have question marks. But other than that, DJ, huge question marks. Chris Taylor, I mean, they still got Gavin Lux. Taylor could certainly, at his age, dip, and he could lose out on some playing time. I don't think he will. They always find a way. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird tier. I don't want any of them starting for me.
No.
I might be okay with Brendan Rodgers, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
Because if he can figure out, like he did better out of Coors than he did in Coors. So if he can figure out how to hit better at Coors, like I could see him at least over 20 home runs and maybe even a 300 batting average. But again, there's
the thing, like, you can see that, right? It's just, but you could also see him getting in a slump and being benched.
Yeah.
That's the problem with him starting for you, right?
The way they manage there,
not impossible, right?
But I think for me with that, like there are a couple second basemen I like below this that I'm not too upset if Rodgers does fly. I mean, I will probably end up with a guy ahead of him as my starter, but if something happens and he ends up being my starter because of the way that I draft other positions, I feel confident enough that one of these late guys will be okay and serviceable to slot in that sense.
All right. Before we shut off the tier, let's discuss a couple of people that didn't make it in and argue their way in or out. Colton Wong. I think I can. I mean, if he's healthy, I think he's easily in this tier. If I was guaranteed full-time at bats from him, he'd be easily my number one choice of this tier. Actually, does everyone just think anyone at one disagree with me on his talent, and two, is just the injuries way too much for him to make it into this tier? Because ADP wise, he could easily be pushed into it.
He's probably the last guy that doesn't suck. And depending on how you think of Lux, that also steals bases for you, right? Like,
yes.
So I think that's a reasonable argument to put him in here. Like, once you get below this, all your stolen base guys, namely Andres Jimenez, aren't very good at baseball. So you're just chasing them for stolen bases.
Well, he's very good at baseball. You're talking fantasy baseball.
Fantasy baseball, yes. Not a good hitter.
Well, all right. Well, I think Wong's interesting then. I mean, Mike, what do you think?
I love him. I get him a lot as my as a middle infielder, and I think he has a lot to offer, especially if he's playing. If he's through the injuries, I think he's a 280 hitter with double digit home run and double digit stolen bases, and at that point of the draft, that's got value for you.
Yeah, if you're at this point, you don't have a second baseman and you want some speed, you can't go with France. You can't go with some of these other guys offer you modest, stolen bases. But yeah, I don't know. I think I could put him in this tier. It feels weird, but I don't know. I think he can be added in because I think if you don't get him, because I don't know if we add him, what do you think, Dave? Because I think if you add Wong, I think you got to add I think you got to add more people. I think because of his injuries, he kind of deserves to be in with the Segura, Escobar, Shoop, like kind of area, like Enrique Hernandez. But I don't know, Dave, you want to give your opinion?
Yeah, I think he'll play. And I'm just looking at his injury history now. It was the same oblique all season. So it was like it was one thing after another, but it was just the same area. And it was kind of that was going around last year. It was all that lower body injuries. So I'd be willing to give him a shot there because I'm going to be loaded everywhere else if I'm waiting on Colton Wong to start for me. And then I can just pick up somebody else draft somebody else after that to slot him in if he does go get on the IL. So I'd be okay with that. And I do like his power speed potential. So
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd be in.
you could always double if you wait. You could always double tap and grab one of the guys in the next group we're going to talk about. That it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
No. Yeah. So
All right.
yeah, no, that's a good call on Colton Wong.
I'm good with him there.
All right, so right now we got LeMahieu, Cronenworth, Taylor, France, Urias, McMahon, Rogers, and Wong in tier. What is that? 4.
4, yeah.
Everyone good with that?
Yes.
All right, moving on. Gene Segura, Eduardo Escobar, Jonathan Scope. I don't think I'm ever going to say his name.
Shoop. Yeah.
Gavin Lux, Enrique Hernandez. I think I'd add Josh Rojas to that group. I think I'd add Jimenez. I think I'd add Abraham Toro. And I think that's it. So for me, Segura, Escobar, Shoop, Lux, Hernandez, that's Enrique Hernandez, Josh Rojas, Andres Jimenez, Abraham Toro. I have them all together for Group 5. I'm sure we're going to disagree here. Well, we start with you, Dave. I always go to you last. Let's go to you first. What are your thoughts on this glob?
Give me the names again. I liked a few of them. I like Segura for the multi-eligible. He's going to hit. So
He's only second base this year.
Oh, he is. Okay.
Yeah, last year I loved him so much because he was second, third. But this year's second only.
All right, I missed that.
Segura, Escobar, Eduardo Escobar, Jonathan Shope, who continues to be better than everyone realizes.
He's so good.
Gavin Lux, who the heck knows? Enrique Hernandez, Josh Rojas, which I think maybe I'll have to argue his point. A lot of people disagree with me on him. Andres Jimenez. Argue what you want. He's kind of last of tier for stolen bases. And then Abraham Toro looks like he'll play every day because Seager's out of town.
I feel like Rojas and Toro can take that next step this year because they're kind of sneaky in a sense where they rack up the totals there. And I think they could take that next step because I think they're going to play. I'm not sure about Enrique Hernandez. I know he had a great year last year, but he's like a roller coaster where he's just up and down. So I'm not sure about Hernandez. I'm not sure what you guys think about that. But as for the other names, love Scope. He's just consistent every year. And like I said, Segura, he's going to hit. He's going to play. So I do like that.
What do you think, Mike? Anyone want to stick out to you for one thing with the Enrique thing, to bring up that point? I agree. He was like up and down, but he was kind of in that the Dodgers didn't know what to do with him for years. And he was kind of in and out of the lineup. I do think Boston kind of has him set every day. So performance wise, it can be up and down, but at least the at-bats are there, which I think just kind of why I'm more comfortable there. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I think Enrique is a sneaky guy there. I mean, I think he's going to get a lot of at-bats, although, as Dave said, it is a roller coaster. I do like Segura. I always feel like he gets kind of slighted, and he's a pretty solid performer. He's especially going to be a solid performer when he's playing on the south side of Chicago, playing second base if the White Sox don't get
Mike, how big is the White Sox roster in your head? I think so far you've traded for 4 players.
I know.
3 shows.
We've got 6 second basemen now. Yeah, no. I think he's really he's underrated. I mean, he plays, he does just fine for you. I would have no problem with him as my middle infield guy here. The one guy that I am interested in and intrigued on and would like to hear your guys' thoughts on is Toro. I think given an opportunity, which I'm not sure he's actually getting yet, I think he could really be a sneaky play.
Who worries you there? I mean, now that Kyle Seager is literally not an option, I'm more considerate because basically it's Chris Bryant or nothing, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's my concern. The last
report on Toro was that they were also going to give him some outfield reps. So it seems like they're dead set on forcing him into the lineup somehow.
Isn't outfield like the only spot that they have good players?
No, I agree. I'm just saying that they if they're doing that and he's second, third, he can play outfield. I think that it's their way of like, all right, we like his bat and we'll force him in there. I understand the concern, but when I read stuff like that, I just kind of feel like, all right, Seattle wants him to play and he'll find a way into the lineup every day.
Yeah.
What do you think, Paul? Again, to recap everyone, because there's a lot of names. Right now, we currently have in Segura, Escobar, Shoop, Lux, Enrique Hernandez, Josh Rojas, Andres Jimenez, who Paul doesn't like, and Abraham Toro.
Oh no, I like Jimenez. I think he's just such a flawed hitter, and I think that Cleveland did everything they could last year to not play him. And they're minors are just full of like weird middle infield prospects that I like. So like I think he's worth where he's going, and I think he belongs in this tier, but I just don't think he keeps enough playing time. But from this tier, I do like Rojas. I liked him a lot last year. I probably won't like him as much at this cost because I think like he's good, but I don't think that he's going to get you 20-20. I think he's going to get you 10 to 15 and 10 to 15, which is still really good.
I like him so much. I know he's going to lead off.
He is going to lead off. Yeah. And I think that team's going to be a little bit better than they were last year. I think that if everyone's healthy, that offense is decent. Like, I think he's one of my favorite guys in this tier. I love Shoop. I don't really need to talk about that much more. It's the same thing. He's going to hit for a pretty good average. He's going to hit near the middle of a better order. He's got enough power and a little bit of first base eligibility. My thing is, I don't know what to do with Lux because I think he's going to play every day. And if he plays every day, he's probably ends up near the top of that fourth tier and might even get in the third tier because he's good. It's just, do we know that the Dodgers are going to let him play every day and let him kind of be what he can be? So I think he has to go here, but I think he's a guy who ends up having the most movement if we do this again a year from now.
Interesting.
I agree with that.
You know, the thing is if he's playing on the south side of Chicago, he's going to get a lot of at-bats.
Oh, God.
I mean, that pretty much wraps up this tier. Is there any other real?
Do any of the guys
marks?
like do you think Madrigal belongs in it?
No, I like Madrigal, by the way.
Or Hampson?
I've been on the bandwagon for years. I mean, Nick Madrigal could win a batting title and steal you 25 bases.
Right.
He's like Luis Arias with an actual secondary skill.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't think he can. I think there's too many question marks below here.
Do you guys see any value in Cesar Hernandez bouncing back in Washington?
I like him there. He'll bat towards the top of the lineup, if not at the very top, except he's literally just decided to stop running.
Yeah.
Regardless of how much power he has generated. I think that, I can't go there, at least in this tier. I'd
rather have like I like him a lot. I'd rather have Hampson or I guess Frazier. I don't know.
What about Chris Taylor? We didn't talk about him.
He's in the previous tier.
Yeah, we talked about him.
Did we talk about him already?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah, he was at the top of the previous tier, actually.
Oh, sorry, guys.
Maybe you disagree.
The thing that I always worry about with Colorado is the playing time and how that shakes out. You know, they've got Hampson, they've got Rogers, and they've got McMahon. Who's playing where and how much, you know?
Not having Story definitely helps, but they're always going to do something stupid.
Yeah, who knows, right? And they could always, who knows, right? One guy that's interesting, which again, I'm wearing this freaking hat and everyone's going to assume this is homerism. I haven't brought his name up. I didn't put him in my initial tier.
Jeff
You
McNeil.
talked about Gavin Lux working his way back up to the next tier. Jeff McNeil easily could work his way into the third tier. As soon as he gets traded, he's third tier for me.
So here's a question for you. I think he's their best option at second base.
Yes, I think if he stays, he plays every day.
It seems like every indication is that he's one, he doesn't stay, but if he doesn't, he's still not going to play, which I don't really understand.
Oh, he does. This is, again, as a Mets fan, this is what I think happens. JD Davis and if they don't trade McNeil, JD Davis and Dom are gone. Robinson Cano's getting released. Believe me, they want to.
No, he's DHing and batting fourth.
No, he's definitely getting. Literally, I've been saying this like all off season. He's getting released. He's batting 260 in the Dominican League, and he was suspended for steroids. Steve Cohen doesn't really like putting up with bull crap. I think they're releasing him. I don't even think he's a consideration. So things still need to move, though. There's too many pieces of McNeil's way for me to feel more confident today. But as far as a shift goes, the second they clear the way for him in New York or trade him, which they publicly said that publicly noted that they may do, I would easily move him up into this tier. Probably would be more comfortable with him in tier 4. And I think he could earn his way into tier 3, but I would put him into tier 4 personally as soon as he had at bats. Does anyone feel comfortable enough to put him in this tier now, or is it too much of a question mark? Because I don't know. It's not that I wouldn't be heartbroken. I think I still have him behind these guys, but it's not like I don't think there's any kind of a big problem. It's just at bats for me.
The playing time, I think when you get out of this tier, you're into players where it's essentially, if this happens, then they're much better than they are, right? That tier 6 is essentially we're getting past the like regular at bats, I guess, not necessarily, but past them, and it's more just, well, if these guys hit, then they're good. If something breaks their way, then they move up a tier or two in the future.
There's one player I want to put in this tier that I can't, and his name is Tony Kemp.
Yeah.
I think he leads off for Oakland, whatever that looks like. Double A Oakland. He is much better than people give him credit for. He is like this insane contact percentage. You look at his plate discipline metrics; it's actually off the wall how effective he is. And I think if you're leading off for a team like that, it's worthy for me. I mean, if they, I don't know, if I just knew, all right, he's playing every day for Oakland at leadoff, yeah, I definitely like him. I'd like him for the same reason I like Rojas, but Rojas is second short and outfielder. And the reason I'm drafting him so much, as I said earlier, I'm drafting my middle infield early, and I am actually drafting my middle infield spot pretty early. So Rojas, especially in a draft champions, as like one of your first bench guys or utility where he's second short and outfield, that's pretty awesome. So I kind of like him in that role. But is anyone a fan of Kemp, or am I on a limb by myself? Because I think he's, again, we're talking in our tier right now for everyone listening. Around 200 ADP is Segura, and then around Toro is 250. So 2 to 250 is the range we're talking. Kemp's at 400 around 386.
Yep.
So again, this is going on a little bit of a limb here, but I have less question marks about his playing time than I do most people above him outside of the David Fletchers and Adam Frazier's, except I think Kemp can offer quite a bit more. I think you're all going to vote me down here, but I personally have him at the end of this tier. Probably the beginning of the next one, but I just want to talk about him.
Oakland's platooning strategy, because they've always platooned super heavily, right? And they lost a lot of they've lost a lot of platoon guys, and they're going to trade a bunch of them, right?
Yeah.
So I think he falls in that next tier because it's the question mark. If this happens, then he's a lot more valuable, and I think that's where you're taking those question mark guys, is in that sixth tier.
I agree.
The thing is, he's never gotten a chance. I mean, everywhere he's gone, he's always been a bit player. He's always been a speed, known as a speed and defense kind of guy. And if Oakland gives him a chance, I mean, he had 400 at bats last year and stole about 8 or 9 bases. And if he gets more bats, he could steal upwards of 20 bases for you at 400. Yeah, sign me up.
I get. You know why I brought him up? I agree with you, Mike. The reason I brought him up is I can see now wanting to put him in this tier. The other people can really perform, and we've seen him do it. I just like him so much more than the next tier that I just wanted to bring him up. Like, if I'm like, oh, David Fletcher, who I actually think is actually underrated, but still, if I'm looking at all these other guys, I'm like, oh, I'd much rather just take that shot on Kemp. I like what I see there. Dave, any thoughts here? I mean, I think the writing's on the wall. He's in the next tier at minimum, but just your general thoughts on Kemp.
I agree with what you guys all said, and like you said, it depends. If we know he's going to be their everyday starting second baseman, then yeah, definitely bump him up a bit. But yeah, just like what Mike said too, it's just he's always done a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but he's never gotten a chance to really do it. So if we know for sure that he's going to play 15 maybe, that's not out of the question. If you can get that at pick 400, sign me up. All day. So
all right. Before we move on, I'll let me recap the tier for everyone listening. I'm sure we'll have a graphic on the screen as well for you. We got Segura, Escobar, Shoop, Lux, Kike Hernandez, Enrique Hernandez, Josh Rojas, Andres Jimenez, Abraham Toro. Nick Madrigal's probably playing every day. Luis Arias probably not. Adam Frazier is going to be playing every day for Seattle. David Fletcher's playing every day. Cesar Hernandez is playing every day. Anyone want to argue any of those guys into this tier, or are they clear second tier?
Yeah, I would bump them all together in that group there, and I'd even add Nicky Lopez too. It's just guys with batting average that will get you maybe 10 steals. Other than Luis Arias.
I think he's shortstop only.
Yeah,
is he shortstop only?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think I would have had him higher than here too. But.
Okay.
No, but that was the next. Everyone agree on the last tier?
Agreed. Last one, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So now we have So let me just name some more: Hampson, Madrigal, Arias, Adam Frazier, David Fletcher, Cesar Hernandez, Jeff McNeil, and And then after that, you get Hae-Sung Kim, Nico Horner, Nick Solak, Wilmer Flores, Josh Harrison, Tony Kemp.
I have
think
Horner.
there's what?
Horner, I think.
You like Horner?
He'll play.
Okay, so we have Madrigal, Arias, Frazier, Fletcher, Hernandez, McNeil, Horner, Kemp. That would be my cutoff. I don't have Kim in there. I don't have Solak, Flores, Harrison. I think this is where we can. I mean, is this a best of the rest situation? I guess this is our last tier. This is our last established tier, and then it's like whatever after this. So we'll this is our last, like, all right, this is like your last chance to grab somebody that's gonna actually offer you something of value. So why don't we go player by player and see, like, why don't we start Nick Madrigal? Does anyone think he doesn't belong in the tier?
No, I think he's there for sure.
How about Arias? I mean, he's about when they talk about empty batting average, I mean, they're talking about Luis Arias. He ain't giving you speed, he ain't giving you power, he ain't giving you nothing. I'm never drafting him. I don't care how many positions he plays. And his playing time is actually questionable.
It is.
I actually wouldn't want him. I'd be fine not even putting him in this tier.
I think I keep him in here. I don't think there's not a notable difference between him and Fletcher. Fletcher's got a little bit safer of playing time, but
I think that's the big difference. I think Fletcher plays every day near the top of the lineup. That's the big difference for me.
Yeah, but I think as of right now, Arias is penciled in for leading off and starting every day, and I think we got to take that into consideration.
Yeah, for sure.
I actually do think Arias does play. I actually do think Arias will play. He plays everywhere, and I don't really see the depth there. Like, I'm just looking at their roster resource. They have him as a starting second baseman, but other than that, like, there's who's going to take over? Like Nick Gordon? I don't know.
think Nick Gordon's better.
Well, yeah, but like Arias is there. He's going to play 5 out of the 7 days, I think, and he's going to play everywhere.
I'm not going to sit here trying to tear down Luis Arias. This is where I'm digging in my heels. Luis Arias can't be there. It's fine.
Yeah.
Adam Frazier. I mean, he's playing every day for Seattle. Fletcher's, whatever. Cesar Hernandez. I think he's fine here, right? Just stop me if I'm wrong. McNeil. We talked about. How about Kim? Hae-Sung Kim. I don't know what this. Here's a question mark wrapped in an enigma. What do we think of him?
I'm passing.
I wanted to believe, I wanted to believe, but I just don't see it. Where's he going to play? How much is he going to play? I mean, if Tatis gets hurt again, I guess that opens up a spot for him, but it's a lot to ask. I don't know.
Well, not to mention Profile right now is scheduled to play left field every day. Once they add another outfielder, which as a Profar fan, of course they're going to, he now gets added into the infield mix as well. So that's a problem. So I'm with you. I mean, I'm fine with him not being in this tier.
If Hosmer gets traded, will he start every day and then Cronenworth first?
Possibly. I think that's his best. I think it's probably his best path at the moment.
Yeah. Matt's hoping that doesn't happen since he drafted Hosmer yesterday.
Hosmer. I mean, he's terrible, but I mean, he right now, from where he's being drafted, he's like, he's going to play. So, I mean, at a certain point in the draft, that's a big deal. It's kind of where we are at this point in the second base. So Kim, we're leaving out. Nico Horner, we agreed he's going to play. He was very good when he was healthy last year. I mean, I could see him he could work his way up in these tiers pretty easily, I think.
100%. Yeah, I think he's got some. I think he is similar to me in the McNeil sense. McNeil's probably better, but it's a similar kind of thing, right? Where that guy he's a guy who could easily move up into that boring, gives you, what you want, average production across the board kind of thing.
He's got no power.
He has no power, but he could give you some decent speed and play
average,
which is nice. All right, before we bore everyone to death who's been listening, we're going to try to wrap it up here. I mean, do we define this last tier we are currently doing as just people that like desperation middle infield plays, and everyone else will be on the like Solak and Flores, for example?
I think Solak belongs in this. Flores doesn't.
I believe neither do. I like Flores for a bench only because first, second, third. When he plays, he's so much better than most of the people in this tier. He's a platoon player.
He's a strict lefty platoon guy, yeah.
Which is I don't know. What does anyone any arguments for or against Solak? I'm never drafting him, so I'll leave this to you guys.
I mean, right now he's penciled into play. Their offense
Where are they
should be.
playing him, by the way? I mean, I
Roster
liked him
Resource
until
has
they
the
added
outfield.
Seager. Really?
Yeah.
They have. I mean, they have Garcia. They have Leotis Tavares. They have Calhoun. They have Calhoun. They have two Calhouns.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Solak's going to play.
I mean, Cole Calhoun isn't very good.
No, none of them are. It's like the worst outfield in baseball.
Right now,
it's like
I think there's enough
Calhouns will
question
get
marks that
injured.
he finds a way to play.
Hmm?
They right now have, what do they have? It looks like they don't even have.
they should trade Solak for some pitching. I'm not even.
Looks
kidding.
like they don't have Tavares on the team to start the year at all.
Well, that's roster resource, which no
Right.
offense to them, but don't
Right.
listen to them. Anybody.
It's a guess, but
In season, very good. Preseason, total guess.
I think Solak should play. I'm fine with him being in the tier below. I don't really care. It's all a pick your guy from this point on.
Yeah. All right. Well, why don't we just do this? We're going to go through a couple of names here that are interesting. The last tier here is what we have. We have Hampson, Madrigal, Arias, Frazier, Fletcher, Hernandez, McNeil, Horner, Solak, Kemp. Why don't we call it that? Everyone cool with that?
That's fine.
Done.
Yeah.
All right, done deal. Who's interesting the rest of the way here? Is there anyone that you think in deeper formats people should keep their eye on that could easily work their way into a much higher value given circumstances? Like, we know what Dylan Moore's thing from last year. Is there any interest in this room on Dylan Moore in a deep format taking a flyer?
He should be on. He should be on a Flyers list.
Mike looks visibly in pain.
No, I there were so many times last year where I picked him up in leagues and he just never woke up. He just never got it going. And I'm like, I don't think I'm going to make that mistake again.
All right, how about Roughneck Odor? Anyone like him moving to Camden Yards?
Should be in an honorable mentions list.
Honorable mentions.
Really
All right, we're putting everyone to bed here. I'm not going to name anyone else. If anyone else has any more names, now is the time to say it. Is there any Jed Lowry fans in the crowd?
I like Edmund. I like Sosa and Ramon Urias as just guys who could have an empty average, but they have average and play relatively frequently. And then taking the opposite of is he still second? He might not be second base eligible anymore. Never mind.
Oh.
I was saying Pinder, but he's not second base eligible anymore. That was only last year.
I have slight interest in Willie Castro, depending on if he gets any playing time at all in Detroit. I think he's got the potential to hit some. He's got some pop there, and I know that the inflated batting average from 2020 was like 349 or something like that. I don't expect that, obviously, but given some playing time, he might be able to work out some of the kinks there and provide some value, especially this late.
Yeah, he would require an injury to get in there, but I liked him a lot last year.
Or just slow playing their rookies.
Yeah.
Though, Dave, anyone you want to mention?
Not to bring up a bad joke, but my earlier thing about the Pirates, maybe just keep an eye on who wins a job there and maybe anyone who can pull ahead of the pack. But I know he's not officially one, but he's probably going to be one. Are we going to talk about Glaber at all, or are we going to wait till we do the shortstop?
He'll get it, but you're not drafting him as you can't draft him as a second baseman. So
no, I mean if he were, I would put him in tier 4.
Yeah,
like that was the Chris Taylor group.
Yep.
Okay.
I think that would be where we put him. Yeah, he would be in there with like. Would he be there? He'd be in there with like the Ty Francis, I guess.
He's not the same tier as India, and he's not below that. I don't think.
Yeah, I think that's good. All right, one more guy I want to talk about, then we wrap this thing up. Let's talk about Nolan Gorman.
Ooh.
Because currently nowhere for him to really go, but that could certainly change in St. Louis. He's a very interesting player. They moved him second base, obviously, because they have Nolan Arenado. They have Edmund and Sosa. He could easily work his way in there somehow. Edmund, it moves all around the field. The big question for him is playing time, but he is certainly someone very interesting. Is he anyone, if you're drafting early, that you draft him late in a redraft, see how it shakes out, cut him, or to deep format, take a flyer? Because he's one of those guys at the bottom here where if you had to like pick a guy, all right, who has the chance to move up the most if things shake his way, I think he's near the top of my list.
I'm not super interested in him, but I'm also a fan. Like I think Sosa's good enough to play every day and does. So I just don't find playing time for him. There's also DeYoung, who's still there, who could take some of those shortstop, or take just anything away. I just don't see enough playing time for Gorman.
That's definitely his issue. Anyone, Mike or Dave, any interest? It's mainly they have a very injury-prone outfield too.
Yes.
That Edmund could move out there. Gorman could find a bats, but I mean, is it just too many question marks for bats for you that you have any interest?
I think even playing time too. I'm looking at his history, and he's only played second base. Well, actually, no, he's played a lot actually last year, 61 games. So I wonder how much more grooming they're going to have him do at that position now that they have Arenado for the next few years. But he's cut down his K rate, so maybe by July he'd be up, maybe. But I wouldn't be drafting him yet unless it's at the end of the draft and I can stash him for a bit.
All right.
Well, I think that's interesting. I mean, if something happens to one of the outfielders and they move Edmund to the outfield, that would open up a natural spot for him, though.
So, yeah, keep an eye on spring training when that starts. And, of course, it will, because there's no issues to start the season from starting at a time that I know of.
No.
So that does it for the second base tiers for everybody. Thank you for listening to the Roto Fanatic second base tiers. We'll have this up on the website for you to peruse as well. We'll have a little bit of explanation for some of the players, pros and cons. So thank you for making it through this. The very next tier, we're going to talk about a shortstop. So we'll catch you for that. See you, everybody.